started. Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
Mayor.
Alderman Bostic.
Make a motion to come out of executive session.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Geis. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Robinson.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson. Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. The next item is a resolution for cleaning private property,
Mr. Mayor,
which,
we've got a couple of motions coming out of executive session.
oh, I'm sorry. Is there any motion coming out of executive session?
Mayor,
Alderman Young.
I move to uphold a suspension without pay of employee number 649 effective September the 28th, 2001, and terminate said employee effective immediately for violation of personnel policy 701.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Second by Alderman Dupree. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. Do we have any other motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Young.
I move to approve an addendum to purchase agreement for the sale of city surplus property approved by the board order number 06-32-21, extending the closing deadline for an additional 30 days and including January 11th, 2022.
Yeah, I think that's 90 days.
90 days. What did I say, 60?
30.
Oh, who knows? I can't, I'm no count. 90 days, 90 days, 90 days.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Alderman Geis. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, we're down to number 5 on your agenda sheet, ladies and gentlemen, new business. Letter A is a resolution for cleaning private property, which is a public hearing, which I now declare open. We have several pieces of property here. The code department has said need cleaning up. They have not done so. The board is asked to authorize city personnel or contract labor to clean them up. Is there anybody out in the audience who has anything to say, yay or nay on these? Anyone? Public hearing is now closed. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to approve the resolution for cleaning private property.
Motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bostic. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Robinson.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, letter B. Do we have a motion for letter B?
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson.
I'd like to motion to request to approve payment of pay estimate number 4 to Excavators, Inc. for the 2-lane bridge replacement in the amount of $75,158.13.
Do we have a second to the motion by Alderman Johnson?
I'll second that, Mayor.
We have a motion by Alderman Johnson. We have a second by Alderman Dupree.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Second by Alderman Dupree. What was the dollar amount on that one, ma'am?
Let's see.
73,000.
73,000. Did I say 100?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay, I'm making
I
sure.
was confused
Okay.
what piece of paper I was on.
Okay, yes, sir. $73,138.13.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. We on letter C on the agenda under number 5. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Guys.
I make a motion to approve payment of estimate number 3 for Phase 3 of the 2019 Horn Lake Street Rehab Project to Gibson Paving, Inc. in the amount of $350,210.30.
We have a motion by Alderman Guys. Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
second.
Second by Alderman Klein. Is there any discussion?
Mayor,
Alderman Guys.
are we near completion on this project? Are there any streets left?
Yes, we are. They're probably 99% complete. We're putting together a punch list right now. And once he addresses that, then we'll do a final inspection, make sure all that's cleaned up. But yeah, he's pretty much through.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostick.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, we are on letter D. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson.
I'd like to request approval of the addendum to the video services agreement with AT&T Mississippi.
Motion by Alderman Johnson. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Second by Alderman Dupree. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Robinson.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostick.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right. We are on letter E. It's a discussion regarding the fireworks ordinance and fireworks roundtable meeting. I asked Mr. Campbell how we should conduct this. Should it be like a public hearing, or whether we could kind of open it to the floor? And if I understand, the proper procedure is for the board to open, and if anyone out there wishes to comment, they can comment. Am I correct?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think we've got some folks signed up, so we certainly want to hear from whoever is present, but I know there have been some suggestions passed amongst the board members, and I didn't know if y'all wanted to discuss those first before the public speaks.
Thank you, sir. All right, is everybody comfortable doing that? All right. Let me get to my... All right. Suggested amendments and fines for fireworks ordinance. Number 1, dates and times of selling to be considered for changing. Number 2, dates of citizens being allowed to discharge fireworks. Number 3, the times of day that discharges would be allowed. Number 4, the age to purchase and discharge fireworks. And number 5 is a request for the vendors to adhere to the dates and the new ordinance. Suggested fines for enforcement: first offense, $100, second offense, $250, third offense, $500. Is there any member of the board who would like to suggest or make some comments here?
Mayor.
Alderman Young.
Those fines, if I'm correct, they are for the individuals. That's correct, right? Okay. I had come down or thought about and looked at the current ordinances, and I would like to propose this to the board, is what's in the packet, in your packet there, of the changes I would like to see to the current ordinance, added into the current ordinance. One is the retail sale of Class C fireworks with approved permits. The retail company that will sell the fireworks must have a permit to sell those things. They must be licensed in the state of Mississippi. I would like to see the business permit be a seasonal permit cost in association with the permitted of Class C fireworks in the city of Horn Lake. The business permit would be $1,200 for a registered business with a Mississippi tax ID. Each seasonal permitted business tent in the city will be assessed an additional $200 fee that is operated by a registered business with a Mississippi tax ID. If you are an individual and you have 3 tents, you will owe $1,200 plus an additional $400 for the season, per season. Each permitted operational tent selling Class C fireworks must print and provide the fireworks time limitations on the retail packaging that they will be leaving the area with. What this is on that packaging, you will have the days that it will be retailly sold in the city, the times that they can be shot off, and the dates they can be shot off. That will also be required at the entrances and close to the register in association with the register. That worked out really well with some of these locations last time, and it did prevent some. Each permitted operational tent selling Class C fireworks must print and provide fireworks time limitation on the signage as I just described, located nearest to the checkout location, the same time limitations. Signage must be produced and placed at each entrance and exit. These signs must be no smaller than 4 foot by 4 foot and secured as not to be blown down or stolen. The addresses and size of each retail location with the manager's name and contact information of the said property must be provided before the permit is issued. Each employee at each property location must be educated and remain familiar with the laws and ordinances in the city of Horn Lake and the state of Mississippi governing the state of Class C fireworks within the city and within the state. The reason I put that in there, if you're going to serve liquor at a liquor store or at a bar, those people must go through a training class. They must know what the laws are. So I just feel that that would be something that we should certainly look at when you're shooting an explosive device. Corporations with an issued business permit within the city of Horn Lake, Mississippi will be subject to the following fines and restrictions if found to be in violation of any part of any ordinance. Permitted businesses found in violation of the first offense will receive a citation for no less than $200. Permitted businesses found in violation of the second offense will receive a citation of no less than $1,000. And the permitted businesses found in violation of the third offense will be shut down for the remainder of the season and will not be allowed to return to the city of Horn Lake for a period of no less than 12 months. That is my proposal for the new to be added to the current ordinance.
All right, I guess we can go step by step through here if y'all want to. We're gonna take.
Sure.
Does anybody else have any comments on the board before Alderman Bostic?
I appreciate Alderman Young putting this together. I kind of put together just what the mayor had read out there, and I think that there's only a couple things that I'd like to change or add on there. On the number one, the sale of the fireworks and the shooting of the fireworks. I think the sale should cut off at 10 instead of midnight every night. And the shooting of the fireworks, I mean, I'm okay with midnight on July the 4th, but on January the 1st, it's not going to be January 1st till midnight, so we need at least to give them till 12:30 or 1 possibly on December the 31st into January the 1st. And then that way it's cut off at that time, right, on the 1st at 12:30 that night. And also to purchase them, you have to be 18 years old. I think the person that's selling them needs to be 18 years old also to sell them. And as far as the fines go, I don't believe there needs to be any warning on this. If they're going to have it printed on the bag and it's going to be everything there, the citizens are going to know what the fines are. And they're going to know that 10 o'clock is the cutoff. So if an officer shows up at 10:30 and you're shooting them, it's a citation right there, then and there, $100. You know, I just think that we've got to put some teeth into this. We're going to put it into the vendors. We've got to put some teeth into it to the citizens to have them understand. As far as the dates that you got on here, June the 22nd through July the 4th, December 20th through January 30th, I'm good with that, or January 1st, excuse me. I'm good with that as long as everybody else is. So I just think we need to put some teeth into it and enjoy the fireworks but make people understand and hold them accountable, starting with the vendors and the people that are shooting them.
All right, sir. Now make sure that I'm on the right page. It's my understanding this is going to be a discussion tonight. No motion will be made at this meeting, but it will be made probably at the next meeting. Am I correct in that understanding?
Mr. Mayor, we'll have to put any amendments into ordinance form to be voted on.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So we're having a discussion tonight. Nobody's in danger of having a vote taken tonight. Does anyone else have any comments?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
on the, just a legal question, on a city ordinance violation, are there state statutory maximums on that?
There are, and it's $1,000 per violation.
So no less than 1,000 would be a maximum of 1,000?
Correct.
Okay, I was just curious on that.
Anyone else? Alderman Dupree.
We're talking about enforcing it and making sure it's enforced.
Excuse me, Alderman, can you?
Yeah, when we're talking about enforcing the law or this ordinance, I want to stress that it needs to be enforced, not an officer going out there, hey, I'm going to give you a warning one time. There should not be any warnings. There should be a fine total, right there on the spot, getting a citation. There's no warnings on this because it is going to be printed on the bags. Maybe the signs, those 4x4 signs, maybe the fine should be printed on that as well. Because there's no excuse at that point.
I agree.
That's all.
Anyone else? I have a few rambling thoughts here. As everybody knows, I was in the liquor business for 27 years. And whenever twice, my employees messed up and sold to minors. But the employee had to pay the fine. I wasn't about to pay the fine for somebody that did what I told them not to do. All right? And I think that should be applied to our fireworks vendors also. They can sit there and give out every piece of information they want to and tell every employee, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But when they walk off, that employee may make a mistake and sell to someone underage, or it might be one of their friends and they sell it intentionally. But I do think when applying these fines that it should be on the person who makes the sale, not the business that should be fined. And number one, there's fairness. Number two, it keeps the clerks on their toes. If they think they're going to have to pay that money, like I say, I was in business 27 years and only twice. Because if they think that money's coming out of their pocket, they're going to be a whole lot more diligent in looking at those IDs. Secondly, I think from talking, I was talking to Mr. Wilson. I asked Mr. Wilson, what percentage of your sales come from out of the city limits? And Mr. Wilson said 70 to 80%. So if we cut off the sales and don't allow them until June the 22nd, and other cities are letting them be sold earlier, our people are just going to go over to other cities and buy them. So I would suggest that we give some thought to seeing what the dates are in the other cities, and we all be on the same page on that. Because if we say you can buy them June the 22nd, they're gonna go over to some other city that allows them to be sold before that. We will be losing our sales tax money. We will be putting our vendors at a disadvantage with the other cities. And I know some of them have outlets in every other city. And of course, the argument is, well, if you sell it earlier, they're gonna shoot them. Well, if they go to Olive Branch and buy them, they're gonna shoot them. We have a very qualified police force. They don't care where they bought them. If they're shooting them, they need to be, just like you said, they need to pay the price for violating the ordinance. But I don't think we should make our vendors pay the price for others who violate the ordinances. Does anybody have any more questions, or would y'all like to hear from some of the vendors? Alderman Bostic.
One thing I wanted to add on there was parental supervision in our ordinance. If they're under the age of 18 and shooting fireworks, they need to have a guardian there watching them shoot those fireworks. If the police officer pulls up and he sees two 10-year-olds out there shooting fireworks and there's no supervision there, then that needs to be addressed with a fine also, in my opinion, to whoever's supposed to be watching those kids in front of that house shooting those fireworks. But we can work on something like that.
Oh, yes, sir. So if I understand it correctly, someone 10 or 11 will be permitted to discharge a firework if they have someone 18 or older standing right there by them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments? Alderman Geis.
On the minimum or minimum age of working at one of the fireworks stands, my understanding is at least one of these vendors hires high school and college kids so they can earn money for college and scholarships. So I think that should be considered in there.
You mean like let it go at 16?
Well, I'm not sure. Once we talk to the vendors, maybe we can find out a little more on how that works. But, you know, I would hate to cut out some college money for some kids that are trying to work there to get it. They definitely need adults there supervising what they're doing when they're selling, and I believe they do have that, because I've been in those stands before, but that was my comment on that part.
Alderman Bostic.
That's a great comment, but there's one thing, as long as the person at the register is 18, there's plenty of other jobs that could be done in there, stocking and moving things around and cleaning up. So just, you can have 10 to 16-year-olds in there as long as the two people on the register are 18. You know, that's what I'm saying. I don't have a problem with under 18 working in there as long as they're not actually doing the sale.
Yeah, if that's included in it, we definitely need to make that specification.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Anybody else? We had a sheet here of sign-ins. Oh, but we're getting back to the dates for sale. Right now, we've got June the 15th to July the 5th. Let's see, December the 5th to January the 1st. And in case any of the vendors want to comment on those dates of sale, I'd really like to hear some information about the time limits in other cities if I possibly could. Going down this list of those of you who are nice enough to sign in, Mr. Miller, do you still have some comments to make, sir?
Once again, my name is Francis J. Miller, voting citizen of Ward 5 of the City of the Horn Lake, 12 years, DeSoto County, 34 years, participated in everything in South Haven and Horn Lake, so I feel I have an opportunity to know what I'm talking about. Now, what I say tonight is my personal, very strong feeling, my feeling. Now, that being said, revenue from the sales of fireworks coming from sales tax is enormous amount of revenue from whatever city or county selling those fireworks. Now, from everything I understood from what went wrong last year and years in the past, nobody is worrying about the sales of fireworks. What they're worried about is the noise, the dogs, the cats that can't survive the fireworks and the noise. People can't sleep. They go on till 3 o'clock in the morning, start at 1 o'clock. The problem is the firing or the using of the fireworks, the noise, and the animal thing. I did not realize that until this year, that the cat and dog noise problem is as big a problem as people trying to sleep. So the way I see all of this, the problem is how these things are shot, when they're shot, when the noise. I personally think we should sell all the fireworks we can year-round and sell them to all the states around us and bring that revenue in here. Won't hurt us. It's when are they fired, where are they fired, the dates, times, and how do you control that? And I'm with all these fines and penalties on the people firing them. That's the problem. Selling them is no problem. Matter of fact, if we can sell them all over the United States, look at the money we can make. That doesn't hurt us. It's the noise. So that's what I want the board to work on. Everything I heard here, there's one more very important thing. Mr. Wilson will follow every rule you give him and he will comply, his people. But what about all those other people that come into our city and we don't have enough police officers to make them follow the rules? Dale will, and Dale's the best. Well, what are you going to do with all those other people come up because he is loud there and they come in, break all the rules, destroy him, destroy our city, destroy the sale? There's your problem too. How do you control these outsiders that come into our perfect selling city? I have no idea. But you got to do whatever you do to go after those people, not Dale. And I loved everything Mr. Young said about the licensing, checking, and go after, those are your violators that come into our city to destroy us and Dale Wilson. He's not the problem, it's these other people. And selling them is not the problem, it's firing them. You got to find a way to get that noise and protect our animals, dogs and cats, and these elderly people, like me, how do you sleep at night? That's what you got to find a way of controlling. And remember, we only have X amount of police officers. You can't think that because there's an ordinance that we have enough police to monitor this. They got other things to do. The last thing they need to be doing is running around finding this noise. There's too much of it and too many of them. You can't just think you got an ordinance, a police department, and it's solved. We would have to have 1,000 police officers during those days if they were going to enforce it. They can't. It's physically impossible. You can tell them it's their job. They can't do it.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Francis?
I do, Mayor.
Alderman Dupree, Mr. Francis.
Yes, sir.
When you're talking about not enough police officers, I believe Chief's going to hire some more. It's in the budget. So
I don't think he's going to get as many police officers as we had 12 years ago when you called it enough. I'll argue with that till all hell freaks loose.
well, I never once
Okay,
said
never
it's
mind.
enough.
You gave me a note. I gave you my answer. Go with your next question.
What about the 10 people speeding down Goodman Road and a police officer can only pull one over? You know what? That one person is going to get a ticket. The other 9's got to wait. But you know what? People saw that car get pulled over. Maybe they won't do it next time. So you can't blame the police on
I won't
this.
argue with that either.
You cannot blame the police.
No, I'm not blaming the people. You misunderstood me. I was defending the police department. We got the greatest police department go, but we don't have enough of them. That was my comment. We don't have enough. They're the greatest I've ever seen, but there's not enough of them.
Calm down, Mr. Francis.
Well, you're the
Calm
one
down.
that asked me to come up
Calm
back
down.
and
We don't
speak.
need the chief to come over and help you, so just calm down.
All
But
right,
you
let's take it easy,
said I
gentlemen.
picked on the police, and that is the last thing I was doing.
Sir?
Okay.
Sir,
Do you acknowledge what I
do
just
you-
said?
Okay, that's fine. But do you acknowledge what you said
What
about,
did I say?
about you can't catch every person?
Oh,
shooting a
yes, I
fireworks?
did say that.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
can't. But that one person getting a citation for that firework that night, with 2 doors down, they're going to see the police there, and maybe they won't shoot it off.
And I agree with you on that statement, too.
Okay, you should have said that earlier instead of
Okay.
blowing that off.
You just pointed it out now, so we all know it.
I think you gentlemen are in agreement now. Thank you very much. Mr. Wilson, did you have anything to say, sir?
I'd like to speak last.
All right, is that all right with the members of the board? All right. Mr. Campbell? Mr. Jimmy Campbell? Would you come forward, please? Do you have anything to say, Mr. Campbell? You're from Arkansas, huh? Yes, sir. My daughter, her family live in Hoxie.
Excellent, excellent. We're in Jonesboro.
Sir?
We're in Jonesboro. We're
Yes, sir, about 20
close
miles.
to you there. As far as the dates, Mississippi law says the 15th of June, and Arkansas law says the 20th. I'm all right with whatever date y'all decide, but if you want to keep in uniformity with most of the other towns around do have they take the Mississippi date of the 15th. Like I say, I'm good with the 15th, the 20th, the 22nd. I'm good with that. I do have a question about the time. If we can sell through 10 o'clock at night, my question comes in to the consumer that comes into your tent at 9:30 and they're looking at all your fireworks. What do you do you've got to be really on your toes if you've got a few of them in there to let everybody know that you've got 10 more minutes, and then you've got to, I see it happen in shopping stores, other stores, when they're telling you, they make announcements and tell you the store's going to close at this time. People still push it to the last minute. So you're putting an employee or the company at risk of getting a fine there when it's hard for the vendor to enforce what time they leave. In other words, if they get there at 9:45, you've got to have them checked out of the register. If you've got 2 or 3 that's trying to check out, I can just see there being a little confusion. And I'm good with whatever y'all decide. We will abide by it. But I can just see that being a little cause for concern there, trying to run people out at the last minute and maybe a little chaos. But
Yes, sir. Could you hold on just a
Yes,
minute in case anybody, thank you, number one, for coming all the way from Jonesboro.
oh, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Anybody on the board have any questions or comments? Alderman Young?
Yeah, thank you for coming all the way from Jonesboro. It wouldn't matter, your point is valid, and I agree with it, but it wouldn't matter if it was 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. It's not really gonna matter. And as far as that goes, I mean, right or wrong, I've been in bars before when they said last call.
Right.
That might be a way to look at that. I'm not gonna tell you how to manage your business.
Sure.
And I don't believe for a minute that there'd be a police officer standing at your cash register going, you got 36 seconds, or I'm gonna write you a ticket. I don't think that, but I think there's a way you can manage that
Yes, sir.
in your company and understand. But, maybe a last call or something. It wouldn't matter what the cutoff was, they still gonna do it.
Yes.
So, but I appreciate you
And
coming
we'll
all the
certainly
way
try
over
our
here and
best
being
to
so flexible.
conform to whatever y'all.
Oh, yes, sir, you'll
y'all
certainly
feel
know.
is safe and
Yes, sir, thank you so much.
Alderman Geis?
I would think on something like that, just whatever your entrance is, have somebody go up there and don't let anybody else in after whatever time we set. And whoever's in there can finish shopping and let them out like you do any other business. But that is a valid concern, Somebody's in there and they're there at 10:20 and you don't want anybody coming by writing you a citation saying you're still selling. So that's what I would do. I would have somebody at the door, we're closed, see you tomorrow, and just handle it that way.
Anyone else? Alderman Klein.
I think we got copies of the proposal right there on the thing right there. Here's a suggestion.
I think that's just,
She's copies. How about those that are in there before 10 o'clock? You identify that last one that comes in at 10, and you get behind them, one of the employees, and say, nobody else from here out. That's the way we do the elections. You know, as long as you're in line at 7 o'clock, you get to vote. Well, I would say it should be the same thing. As long as you're in there and you're in line, you should be able to
We
get
can
checked out.
control that because we have walls on the tent, and at 10 o'clock, we can go over and clamp those walls, and y'all got to finish shopping, and that seems enforceable.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, sir.
You be are you going home tonight?
Yes, sir.
You be careful.
Oh, well, thank you.
Mr. Sandoval? Mr. Jim, you already have everybody's name and address, don't you? Good evening, Mr. Sandoval.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
How are you, sir?
I'm good. I work for Mr. Campbell. I've managed one of our locations out here for the last 5 years, and we were gracious enough this last year to open up a second one. I don't see any issues really with any of the things. I know the last couple of years we've added some new stuff to it. 2 years ago, we were asked to pass out the papers that showed dates and stuff like that. I think one of the biggest issues that may be a challenge for vendors like us is printing those dates and times on the packages, unless we went with paper or something like that. Just because if I run out, I may not have time to have supply brought back from Jonesboro, or I may not have time to have those bags printed, so I'll send somebody to Sam's to pick up just generic bags. So I don't know how you would do something like that if I run out of bags during a season, because it's been, we've done that before where we didn't plan 2 years ago to have the sales that we've had. So how do we do something like that if I do have the dates, the times, and the ordinance is printed? How do we go about that?
Does anyone care to answer, Mr. Sandoval? Alderman Young.
Well, there will be two ways. There again, I'm not going to tell you how to run your business, but there'd be two ways I would deal with that. One, I would make sure I'd count my bags. If you look at your busiest day, if you use 15,000 bags, I might have 17 available every day, 17,000. That'd be one thing I would think about. Second thing is, if you run out of bags and you had the flyers, that would probably be sufficient if you explain, I ran out of bags. I wouldn't think, there again, I don't think they're going to walk through with a crowbar and beat you upside the head about it. What we're trying to do is get unity so that everybody understands your people selling and your people buying what the law is.
Correct.
That's the big thing here. And, as long as you don't make it a continuous effort where you only have 400 bags there and you need 17,000, we might have an issue. But I don't think it, I think you could probably plan that a little more if you knew what was coming.
I agree with
Especially
that.
if your days are going to be condensed, if they get condensed, not saying they are, but if they get condensed, you understand you're going to sell more fireworks in this period, so you might want to look at that too. But that's just my thoughts.
You came from Jonesboro also, didn't you?
We rode together, yes, sir.
Well, y'all have a safe trip home, but,
Thank you, sir.
since, if this is decided about the hours and the days, you don't have to have the year on there. So like Alderman Young said, you could have a pile of them, because what you don't use in the summer,
We can roll
you
over.
can use it December. There's no year on them. So really and truly, there's no reason to run out. I know you would be tickled to death to run out if you had 15 or 17,000 bags. But with no year on there, there's no excuse to it. I guess like if the board decides if you ran out, you put a flyer in there, that would be up to the police. Anybody else have any questions or comments for Mr. Sandoval? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell lives here in Horn Lake. How are you, Mr. Mitchell?
Good, Mayor. How you doing?
Fine, thank you, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity to let me speak. I did have a couple of things I did want to address.
Yes, sir.
Right now, we're talking about the receipt of the ordinances from Mr. Young. We're talking about the receipt of the ordinances to give to all the customers, right? I'm in total agreement with that. You know, all the customers do need to know the times, age limits, requirements. 100% with you on that. A couple of things I would like for you guys to consider with that. Paper, to be frank with you, is probably thrown away as soon as that customer walks out of that tent. Okay? Not everybody, of course, but the majority of the customers, okay? They're probably not going to read it. Let's just be realistic. Okay? So at my tent, the past 2 seasons that I've been here in Horn Lake opening, I utilize a system to where when our customers pay, most of my customers pay by credit card, most of them. You guys probably all pay by credit card when you go somewhere nowadays anyway. So when we send that receipt out to that customer, along with that payment is all the ordinances for the city of Horn Lake that the customers have to abide by. Okay? That way we know that, you know, we don't waste paper. Hopefully we don't waste paper when that customer is throwing it away in that parking lot, because I walk out there and pick it up 5 minutes after they're gone, okay? But when I know, I text them their receipt of what they paid for, at the bottom of that receipt is also the ordinances that they have to abide by, okay? So that's just something I'm hoping you guys can, you know, not saying throw away the paper part of it, but let that be an option for us as a vendor, okay? In addition with, of course, it's still being on the entrance to exit areas, that's, I'm 100% with that. The age allowed to purchase, that was brought up. You know, it is a responsibility of the vendor to run a proper business, law-abiding business. So if you guys are going to include something with an age requirement for a customer to purchase inside of, you know, our tents, how are we supposed to know what their age is? You know, other than visually, are we supposed to ask them for ID? You know, that wasn't mentioned. So, you know, telling us that we need to know that they're 18, but how do we need to know that they're 18?
Are you done?
Yeah, well, but no, go ahead.
No, it would just, you just ID them just like you would if you're buying a pack of cigarettes or a beer or anything else. You have to ID them. You could put a sign up there that says, we ID 18 years old.
Okay.
If they walk into your tent, they know if they don't have an ID, they're not 18, then they're not to purchase.
Gotcha. Okay. Dates of the sales, you know, you guys are going to decide what you decide, and I think it should be around the same time frame as the other cities that are close to us, because as someone has already said, if they don't buy from us when at a certain date and the next town over is selling it, they're going to go over there and buy it, come over here and pop it, light the fireworks off at an inappropriate time, and get a citation. But it would seems like that the vendors here in Horn Lake would bear some type of responsibility because the citizen has, you know, used that firework at the time frame that's not allowed. Because right now it looks like if a citizen is shooting the fireworks at a time frame that's not allowed, the assumption is that it came from a Horn Lake vendor. The assumption. But, you know, if we are all selling citywide, South Haven, Olive Branch, same time frame, you know, if the citizen does something inappropriate, you won't just look like we sold something when we shouldn't have sold it to them, okay? And the fines to the businesses That was a proposal that I heard also. 200 at the first offense, 1,000 at the second offense. The third offense shut down no less than 12 months. What qualifies and who would be the one to come out and, you know, enforce the regulation? Would that be the police? Would it be the fire department? Okay, so the police would be the one. They're going to be certified to know what a Class C violation is.
They're certified to understand the law written in the city of Horn Lake. That's all we're talking about here.
Okay. And they're going to know if those violations have occurred at our business.
That's correct.
Well, those are things I had. Definitely with the paper trail of the receipts, I think it's worth looking at us to be able to give those receipts to customers in a electronic format, like everything else pretty much in day and time is going on right now.
That's a good point.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I didn't realize you could print all that on the bottom of your, that's pretty neat.
Wow. Just paying
Anybody?
attention, that's all.
Alderman Guys.
In reference to the enforcement of the ordinances, these have due process like a ticket or an arrest or anything. So if an officer writes a citation, he has to have probable cause for that citation, and you would have a chance to go before a judge and plead your case, and then the judge makes a determination if there was an actual violation or not.
Okay.
So that's the way that would work.
Right.
And you know, what they would be coming out to enforce with you is like if it was an underage sale or selling after the appropriate times or not having the proper signage up and things like that. So as far as if they're away from there shooting fireworks, that's not your problem. If you've sold them all according to ordinance, you're good to go.
Right, of course.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Thank you so much, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to date myself. When I was a kid, you could buy and shoot fireworks all year long. So as a consequence, we didn't do it very often because it's expensive and it wasn't a big deal. Mr. Wilson, you're the last on the list. Good evening, Mr. Dale.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Dale Wilson. I'm just going to keep it short, and maybe you want to make some comments in writing after I have a chance to digest all of this, but a couple of comments. I've been in business for 53 years selling fireworks. I didn't have money to go to college. I made my money through selling fireworks to get through college. Because of that, I have probably paid no less than several thousand scholarships for Mississippi and Tennessee people that work for me. I'm really disappointed to hear that you wouldn't want a teenager to learn how to work, become a businessman, and earn money. It's like the old rule they made a few years ago that the children on the farms can't work anymore until a certain age. This is not America. That's not right. I've hired people 15, 16 years old. They worked 10 years for me. They worked their way through college. I gave them extra money. I paid through masters. So you're cutting out my whole process of doing business and living life. Enough of that. I'm going to take you quickly through the fireworks business. We do 90%. First of all, I'm going to give you a ratio. For December, we do about 20% of the annual sales. For July, we do about 80% of the annual sales. I'm going to take you to July the 2nd in your mind for just a minute. So it's July the 2nd. Now, out of the July season, we do 80% of our business on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And sometimes we work till 1 o'clock in the morning. I work about 40 hours in a row during that period without going to bed. Okay, it's just the nature of the business. But much of the business that comes in is at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 1 o'clock on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And that would be devastating to make a rule like that. People want to celebrate. They want to celebrate America. And we're there to serve them. We're servants that time of year. And now you tell me it can't operate. Enough of that. But the fact that you would write a law to put me out of business if I violated a law, I think that's illegal and the most un-American thing I've ever heard in my life for someone to say that. That if I violate two or three rules, I'm out. After 50 years. After bringing other development into the city. How about caring about the city? There's not a week that goes by that Horn Lake, commerce-wise, is not discussed in my office with my assistants. We work hard and have worked for years to help Horn Lake. We have a passion for Horn Lake. I love Horn Lake. Thought about moving here, running for mayor even. Probably couldn't win. But anyway, I'm really disappointed that you would throw such fines on us that doesn't exist anywhere else. Walmart sells fireworks too. They're not here. You think they're going to shut down at 10 o'clock?
They sell the pops. They don't sell.
I'm sorry, they sell Class C fireworks. Okay, I bought them there.
I understand.
Okay, well, that's not an accurate statement, So I'm disappointed in some of the things. Now, here's really the problem, all right? This is the real problem. The problem is the people that's buying them aren't following the rules. That's why all this other stuff is putting a burden on us. It's the people that abuse the rules. Most people follow the rules in fireworks shooting, but it's the people that abuse them, and then we're getting punished for that. That's terrible. That's un-American. That's not right. I'll be glad to address any problem you have as far as sacks and printed literature and all of that, but it's also a terrible burden on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of July when we're slammed and make most of our living to be carding everybody. I doubt if Walmart cards anybody for anything other than liquor. This seems like an undue, you really don't want me here. And that's okay if you want to tell me that. We'll just pack up our bags and fireworks and leave and everything else, and we don't need to come back. I have millions of dollars over the years invested in real estate and equipment. I have a staff that I run. My staff runs every day and even during the holidays, and we discuss fireworks every day. It's part of what we do. Just because we show up twice a year, we're really just not a twice-a-year company. We're a full-year company. I'll answer any questions y'all have.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Wilson? Alderman Young.
I appreciate you, Mr. Wilson. I'm not real sure where to start, but I'll start here. My first indication when the debacle happened at the last fireworks season was to say no fireworks at all in Horn Lake. And I think it would have went through this board. We backed off that a little bit. The citizens of Horn Lake that have serious PTSD issues, the dogs and the cats, they got my attention. People, my constituents, have my attention. Being in a business myself, when you restrict the selling hours, just like at a liquor store or just like at a bar, when you hit last call, everybody buys 2 or 3 drinks because they know they're not going to be able to buy one after 2 o'clock. Just like at a liquor store, they know it closes, and I'm sure Mr. Latimer can probably even agree to this. They'll buy 3 or 4 bottles before 2 o'clock, before 10 o'clock, because they know they can't buy them on Sunday. I would imagine in your business, when it goes to 10 o'clock, they'll probably come in at 9:30 and just buy a boatload of fireworks.
Disagree.
Because they know they can't buy them at 10:05.
Disagree.
Well, that's fine. You can. I think I would be fine with that. The problem is we've got to find some common ground here. And the people of Horn Lake don't want fireworks sold. the majority of them. And we're going to have to put some constraints on this, and it's going to be done. And I'm sorry you feel it's un-American, but it's not un-American. Your tents was one of the only ones that were actually doing what they should have been doing last time. I'll give you that. But some of the others weren't. So to make sure it is fair across the board, which is what we are based on as a republic, fair and equitable across the board, that's the reason for these new roles. It's not to be un-American, and it's not to drive you out of business out of Horn Lake. I take offense to that. That's not what this is about. I respect your business. You have 2 or 3 other businesses up there that you run as well the rest of the year, along with your fireworks business, and I understand that too. I'm all about your business. I'm all about seeing you explode and get some more. But there's got to be some restrictions for the people of Horn Lake that can't take the sounds of those. It's got to happen. We have got to listen to that population of the public. It's got to happen. And I can't believe that you would say profits are above people's health.
I beg your pardon.
That's what you just said. It's going to run you out of business, and you want to move your stuff out of Horn Lake if you can't do it. That's what I heard.
We just have 2 different opinions about the whole thing. But here's the problem. All right. I told you that 80% of the people are from out of town. Okay. So there used to, and for the last 50 years, they bought fireworks up until midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning. And so they arrive there at 10, and you say, no sales.
Okay.
They'll never be back. They'll go to another location, wherever they sell them. So, but here's the issue, Dave. I don't think you understand this. By limiting the hours of sales to 10 o'clock on the busiest days of the year cuts our revenue in a huge amount. That doesn't mean that they're going to come down and shoot them. That has nothing to do with them shooting them. You have restrictions on the hours they can shoot them.
You done?
Yeah.
This is true, and we are going to restrict the hours that they shoot them. I'm not worried about the 80% of the folks that go to Memphis and shoot your fireworks. I'm worried about the 20% inside of Horn Lake Municipal City limits. That's the ones that I'm pushing to restrict. Is everybody a law-abiding citizen that walks into your tent and buys fireworks? Absolutely not. We got stop signs all over the city of Horn Lake, speed limit signs, and I'm going to tell you some of the same people that could care less about the ordinance are the same people running those stop signs and blasting by those speed limit signs because they don't care. But we have to respect the citizens of the city of Horn Lake and what they want, as well as what you want. It's a very fine line. Your business is extremely good, and I appreciate it beyond I thank you for it. It's great, but we've got to listen to all sides of this argument, Mr. Wilson. That's what we're doing. We're put here to vote on the items, and we have got to restrict this some. We have got to. We have no alternative. That's my opinion on it. I'm sorry we differ on that. I'm sorry.
We do greatly, because it destroys the business model that's been in place for 50 years where people can buy fireworks on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th up till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning.
I understand your business model, but also times change. I understand that too. The trucking industry changed dramatically in 1989, and it had to adapt to a new proficient model. And it's still working that model today. You're successful that it lasted 53 years in Horn Lake. That's a great thing, but we have got to listen to the people of Horn Lake. That's the bottom line.
We totally agree with you. Shooting at 10 o'clock is fine. We just disagree with selling them for 80% of the people that come to our stands to do business.
And
Mr. Mayor, ask a question?
Sure.
May I, gentlemen? In the other cities, South Haven and Olive Branch, that permit the sale of fireworks on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, how late do they permit the sale?
0 restrictions.
0?
0. Matter of fact, most of the things that we've discussed here doesn't exist in any of the other cities.
So the other cities, you can buy fireworks 24 hours a day during the permitted dates?
Yes, as a matter of fact, on Highway 61, at the location there, on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, because of the volume of the business, and because most of that business does go to Memphis, we're open 24 hours a day. We're serving the public of the demand. It's a supply and demand, typical business model. But there is, to answer your question, Mayor, there's none of these restrictions or fines or anything like that.
So over in, say, Olive Branch or South Haven, there's no, you can open at this time, you close at this time. It's just whatever you want to set as your own business hours.
Yes, sir, that's a true statement.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have any?
Mayor.
Alderman Guys.
If I'm understanding what you're saying is on the July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, you're requesting if there is a change that on those dates it stay where it is now, and you don't have an issue with it the other dates?
If we could go from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th till midnight, we're good with that. And we don't have a problem during the 10 o'clock period up until that date.
Well, if I may be reading this wrong, but it seems like it's listing it at midnight every night for sales. It's 10 o'clock except for the December 31st and January 1st, and then 12 on the 4th for discharge, but sale is up till midnight that whole time.
Well, then I'm totally misunderstanding, and my apologies.
That's what I'm reading here. Now, you may have something different that you had before, but is that accurate? It's very accurate.
Well, then we were on two different wavelengths, I'm sorry, yeah.
So it's showing midnight.
I didn't have a copy of this.
Okay. So it is showing midnight there.
Okay,
So,
well, we're good with that. My apologies.
okay. Yeah, I wanted some clarification.
All right, thank you for that,
Yes, sir.
Alderman Guys. The other thing that really bothers me, and I do think it's un-American, is I'm not sure what rules you'll have on the books for any other business that violates rules that they're out of business if they have the 3rd or 4th strike.
Alderman Guys.
Chief might be able to respond on this better than I, but I believe any conditional use permit can be revoked if there's violations of the rules. I would think if it gets to where we're going in there wanting to shut down a fireworks stand, there's been some serious violations of whatever the rule is. I can't think of a business that I know of that we shut down besides a massage parlor down there, which was illegal. None of this is set in stone yet, but even, I don't know if there's a due process on that as well.
Ms. Campbell, please ask you.
Yeah, you're right. As far as revoking a conditional use permit, that would actually come back before the board for a hearing to revoke it before it was done.
So, it's not, the police wouldn't come in there and you're done. There's a process where you can come before us and defend that. And on these violations, those violations actually have to be convictions for it to even count.
Okay, thank you for that.
So, and like the mayor said, I used to be the one in charge of sending people in to make buys at liquor stores and other places. And we always charged the individual that violated the law. We never charged MAPCO. Now, if there were continued violations, the state could revoke those things. But and that would apply here as well, what this ever ends up being. There will be a due process to this. And it's not just an officer goes down there and writes you 3 citations and you're closed. Those violations have to go before a judge and get litigated in court, and you get a conviction for it to count as one. And that brings up another question. If we have 1st and 2nd, 3rd violations, how long do those violations last toward a third? You know, that's something that has to be considered in there as well. Say he, or one of these other gentlemen, have someone that sells underage or whatever it may be, or after hours, and then 3 years later, they have another one. Is that two, or is that just one again? So you know, when we get into this ordinance and the specifics of this, those things need to be considered. So we don't have an issue like that. You know, that would not be fair. In 10-year period, you have 3 little violations, and then your business is shut down for a year. So those things will be addressed.
Okay.
Nothing is set here yet. We'll all have to still come up with something and then vote on it. So hopefully that clears up some of that.
It does. Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Alderman. Does anyone else have any questions? If I understand correctly then, Mr. Wilson and members of the board, midnight is acceptable selling time for everybody. This is just throwing it out. Okay? All right. There's consideration on allowing the sale a little bit before June the 22nd or December the 20th. But they could not discharge them except the dates that this board will determine. And then, of course, the issue of the fines and the issue of the violations, if any, and the time limit, which was a good point too, that how long will that count toward you losing your conditional use? But did anybody else have any questions? Alderman Dupree.
I'm talking about the 4th, selling to midnight, and the cutoff is at 12:30. How many people are really gonna get their fireworks, go home and shoot them in 30 minutes?
Exactly. They bind them for the next day.
Exactly, so now we gotta back up and say on the 4th, we gotta cut the sale down where they will have time to go and shoot them before 12:30. Maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Just throwing that out there. I mean, being realistic, you gotta have people to, you know, have time to shoot them.
You're right. If they buy them late on the 4th, they're not going to wait till Christmas to shoot them.
That's right.
Let me answer that question. That's very typical that they are buying them for the 5th. And to further the proof of what I'm saying, we actually have a special sale on the 5th. We have traditionally that the fireworks are half price. So why are they buying them? They save them to Christmas. They're smart shoppers. Gotcha.
You didn't get me because they're still gonna be shooting them. And then they're gonna be fined after 12:30 because they don't have enough time to shoot their fireworks.
Disagree.
Okay, we'll see.
I'm just telling you what 50 years of experience has taught me.
I can tell you from someone that used to buy them when my kids were younger, I went in, it's just like buying Christmas stuff and Halloween stuff the day after. I went in and bought them when I could buy them cheaper because I'm stingy like that and I didn't want to pay full price on my fireworks. So now, as you know from being in law enforcement, we can have all the ordinances and laws in the world, and there's going to be that handful that violate it no matter what.
That's right.
So I'm looking at this as one, I don't see this as a business problem. I see this as a community problem of probably the same people that don't care about anything else in the city. And we just need to be fair on it. I don't think we need to punish a business unless that business is actively contributing to that delinquent behavior. But, you know, I wouldn't be for, just personally, I wouldn't be for backing up the sales time, I would be for, on that one particular day, giving them a little more time to shoot them. And I'm speaking as a guy that has 3 dogs in their house that absolutely freak out.
Yep, me too.
I've got them on all kinds of medication. They're drugged up and, it's bad. But I don't let my personal thing affect other people's enjoyment of things that I enjoyed when I was a kid and what I did with my kids. So that's the way I look at it, but we need to do something particularly on the enforcement end of the people ruining this for everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm gonna at least be focusing on.
Oh, that's,
Thank you, sir. Alderman Klein had his hand up first. Alderman Klein.
Hey, Mr. Wilson, I had asked you once before, would you be interested, or any of the vendors, in educating the public and putting out there during that time of sales, the safety of proper use of fireworks and that? And I'm wondering where you stand on that still.
Alderman Klein, absolutely, would be glad to. We will attempt to rent billboard space if it's available, and we'll do that several months in advance. We'll see if we can do some public service announcements on the radio. We'll be glad to do that. Because we advertise on the radio, then we can do that, and we will do that. And I am working on a billboard for Horn Lake, a digital billboard. It's going to take a while, but that's in the process too. And they promised to do public service announcements free for Horn Lake, not only for fireworks, but for other events that you would have. So we're on top of it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Alderman Dupree.
earlier, it was just a suggestion. I wasn't voting for that. I was just throwing it out there. I mean, how can somebody have 30 minutes to shoot? Okay, you explained that to me. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
Excuse me, Alderman, I don't hear good.
No.
Thank you, sir.
But I was thanking Mike for clearing that up for me. So now we're just going to have to work on the enforcement, like you said. So now we're going to really be calling the police a lot. 12 o'clock, cutoff's 12:30. They're going to be shooting them till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. It's not your problem. It's ours. You're selling them. People out here are shooting them. But I understand the point you're selling them. It's okay. Now it's going to fall back on law enforcement really hard. I just don't know how we're going to do it. Anybody got any suggestions?
Sir?
Does anybody have any suggestions?
I think when the board goes to consider the enforcement, really should talk to Chief Ryle down there, because that burden will be heavily on his shoulders. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson, do you have anything else, sir?
No, I would like time to respond in writing before the next meeting so that what I agree and disagree on.
It won't be until October the 19th, sir.
Okay.
And we'll make copies and have it in every alderman's packet for you and for the police department too, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank
every
you
one
for
of
your
you. Thank
time
you.
and your suggestions, and a very frank discussion, which is nice, and I appreciate everybody. Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Good night, Mr. Wilson. Good night, all you vendors. Y'all be careful of going back to Jonesboro. Mr. Mitchell, watch out for the speed in Horn Lake when you go through now. Letter F, under Roman numeral 5. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson.
I'd like to request to approve payment for Phase 2, 2021 Horn Lake Street Management Program to Neil Schaefer in the amount of $56,905.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Klein. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein,
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Free.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. Citizens' remarks. Every citizen who had their name on the list has been heard from. Did y'all want to continue, or did y'all want to take a little break? What do y'all want to do?
Let's go ahead.
Continue.
Continue on.
Roll it? Okay. All right, Mayor Alderman correspondence. All right. I have been in the midst of discussions with Core 5, with DeSoto County, and with Mayor Musselwhite. Mayor Musselwhite was several weeks ago regarding the possible extension of the proposed road by Core 5 development off of Interstate Boulevard, where so it could go down and join in with Pepper Chase. I have spoken with Miss Lisa Sock from Core 5. I think Mr. Malavasi has also. This started off, this thing has kind of grown. It started off just extending their 2-lane service road down to hook up to Pepper Chase. And then it kind of grew into, well, let's make it wider. And then we had to discuss with South Haven and the county about them bringing Pepper Chase up to join in at the Horn Lake city limits. I thought things were going pretty smoothly. Mayor Musselwhite and Supervisor Caldwell, in a meeting about 2 months ago, seemed to have some reservations. Since that time, Supervisor Caldwell has indicated that the Board of Supervisors is willing to contribute some money to complete Pepper Chase up to join on with Pepper Chase in Horn Lake. That's where that stands. Core 5, since the service road would have to be built to the specifications for a public road, which is more expensive, has requested the board to consider contributing several $100,000 to the construction of that road. That will just take it to the end of where their service road had been completed, not to our city limits. That was their first shot, a little over $500,000. If the board so wishes, I can go back and speak to Ms. Sock, come back with a different figure, or Supervisor Caldwell suggested that she, representing the county, Mayor Musselwhite, someone from Core 5, myself, and perhaps Mr. Malavasi, meet next week. Now, that's kind of the background to this gargantuan knot right now. Mr. Malavasi, did you have any comments to make to what I said or what maybe I left out?
Well, no, Mayor, not anything much additional. I did speak to Core 5 represented today, Ms. Lisa Sox, and basically what you've summarized is exactly what we discussed. And the thing right now that we have in hand is we have from them a site plan which shows that 3-lane road from Nail Road where it ends now, running south of their property, all the way over to the east side. That's a site plan that they have presented to us, and we have reviewed and pretty much accepted for some minor comments that we still have. But that's been on their side. They've actually done the permitting, the environmental, and all that for that section of road. So that's where they're planning on moving forward with that. But then they come back to us, like you said, and said that, hey, look, this is going to cost us a lot more than we realized up front. It's a lot more than we had in our conceptual plan. And so they came back and asked, like you said, the city to maybe co-sponsor that section of roadway, which additional cost they presented. I got that figure today of $1.2 million, and they said they would pay half of that if the city and whomever else may be could co-sponsor the other half. So they're just wanting to know if the city is willing to do that or not at this point or not. so that they can maybe, go ahead and close their deal on this property. So that's kind of where she was with it. There are some other pieces to this puzzle that could come into play if the city decides not to do that, but that's kind of on the outskirts that we probably need to look at in case the city says we don't have the money, or we're not going to do anything at this point.
Well, I know that you put the extension on the MPO list, but that could be how many years? 3, 4?
Yes, sir, it could be probably 3 years, I would say, before you see construction. Maybe 2.5 if you're lucky.
And if it gets approved, the MPO will pay 80% of it, like they did on Horn Lake Road. And we still be on the hook for 20% of it. Like you said, Core 5, these are the same people who built the warehouses where Amazon and O'Reilly's are. They are wanting us to basically make up our mind. Do we want to continue with the idea of hooking those roads up? Or do we want to just say, well, we just don't feel like we want to spend that money? Now, bear in mind that road opening up would encourage businesses on the property we sold along Nail Road and Interstate Boulevard. Did she mention any other options at all, sir? I know when you called me, I didn't get to talk long because I had just been down to the funeral home and was in a crunch there.
No, sir, she was just pretty much explaining their stance in the situation as far as, the background of how we got to this point and the reason they were asking for this additional funds from us, from the city. There are other options, though, Mayor, that we could look at. Like I said, if the city says, no, we don't want to go that route, there are other options. Like you said, we could serve that industry with maybe just 2 lanes and stop it at their eastern boundary. See how much that would cost. Instead of 3 lanes, do 2 lanes and not develop it, you'd have to go ahead and develop for heavy traffic because they're putting 18-wheelers in there. But that would reduce the cost to some degree, and we could stop it at the eastern end. And then if we wanted to come back at a later date and say, okay, we're going to open it up to Pepper Chase, which means we've got to add more lanes to it also, then you could put that entire project from that point on, the modification of that road through there in MPO, and let them pay for that part of it. Because that way, that time frame, you've taken care of the immediate need, and that's to serve that industry.
Yes, sir. So what you're saying here is, I know because most of the board members have not had the background, that one of the options is for we just tell Core 5, go ahead and build your service road to end where it's supposed to end. Not to the end of our property, but to the end where they proposed originally. Is that correct?
To the end of their eastern property, that's correct. It comes down, extend Interstate Boulevard down south to their property, turn and go east. That segment, all the way to the east end of their property is what I'm talking about.
But that wouldn't be the city limits boundary, would it?
No, sir.
Okay, to the east end of their property.
It'd be about 450 more feet to get to the city, and then 450 more to get down to the tie-in Pepper Chase, which would be South Haven side.
So we would still have, on the MPO project, 450 feet of road to add at some point in the future.
Plus any additional widening that we may have to add to the 2 lane that I was talking about going with initially.
All right, sir. So that's one option for the board to consider. And of course, that estimate of $1.2 million, that was just for that, wasn't it?
That would be what they would, if we provided them the $600,000, that would provide a 3-lane road out to the end of their property, eastern end of their property.
And then it might be several years before we can connect it down to Pepper Chase Drive.
That's another $800,000, $900,000 probably.
And of course, the county would be willing to chip onto that.
Yes, sir.
And cause we're definitely not going to spend any money in the city of South Haven. There would be, if South Haven won't agree to connected, then that just stops it.
Right.
That just stops it. Would y'all like me to wait and meet with Mayor Musselwhite and everybody next week, like all the guys suggested at one time, and then bring y'all back, you know, I'll be like Custer's Last Stand, bring you back to the horse that survived. All right, anybody have any questions about Pepper Chase then? Mr. Malavasi?
No.
You have anything?
No, sir, I'm good.
All right. I wanted to thank every department for all they did during the year, which this is our first board meeting of a new year. Alderman Young, do you have anything, sir?
I have nothing, sir.
Alderman Dupree?
No, sir.
Alderman Johnson?
No, sir.
Alderman Bostic?
Yes, sir, I have one item, and it's gonna entail Sodas County Schools, the Parks Department, and probably Public Works, and probably you too, with your connection with DeSoto County. We got a major parking lot issue over at Wooten Park, where the parking is. If I'm not mistaken, you can see where Wooten parking used to be there with the black pavement, and then when they built the building there at the middle school, that's like an orange pavement. All of that really needs to be resurfaced, but the Wooten Park side, there's about 12 potholes out there that range anywhere from an inch to 12 inches. And if you go over there, I took a bunch of pictures I can send you with the water. They're just all standing in water right now. And when they drop kids off at the school and the buses are going, they're having to dodge all these potholes over here. So I don't know what's the DeSoto County school problem or what the city's issue is. So, I need all of y'all kind of to get into it, look into that if y'all could and see if we couldn't get those potholes taken care of over there, if it's our responsibility or if it's the school's responsibility.
I had to look and see the property line. Also, when the Corps of Engineers started doing this flood control study, they only have that little preliminary meeting, but one of their suggestions was where Wooten Park is to make that a retention or a detention area down there. Is that the latest I've heard? That was several months ago. Is that still cooking?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's still in there, I guess, option one.
Option one, but I don't know the extent of how much they'll want to take of Wooten, and I don't know if we can find out. You say those potholes
They're in the parking lot.
They're in the parking lot.
Of the black pavement where everybody used to park years ago to go to Wooten Park before Latimer Lake was ever built.
Yeah.
And before that, Art Center was built in that new building.
I don't know how far back they want to come into the parking lot.
Right.
I don't know if we can find out or.
Yes, sir. We'd have to go back and look at those maps to figure that out.
All right, so,
Talk to
but
the Corps.
if they're not going to be getting it, we can certainly find out whether part of that's the schools and part of that's ours.
Right, well, most of the potholes are all in the black pavement of the old Latimer Lakes parking there. If they go over there, Drew will be able to see it, and Gary, and there's not so much over in the orange pavement as much as there is in that black pavement of the original parking lot for Wooten when we used to park over and play ball.
All right, sir.
But if they can get those cleared up, it's bad over there, it really is.
If you can look at that, Mr. Gary, we'll check tomorrow and get the lines. Thank you, Alderman Boston.
We can just get something over there for them to be able to use that parking lot. I mean, they can't, or rope it off, whatever. If we're allowing the school to use that parking lot and it belongs to us, I don't know how all that works over there as far as where the cutoff is and stuff. Okay, thank you, Gary.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Geis, anything, sir?
No, sir.
Alderman Klein?
No, sir.
All right. Mr. Robinson, did you have anything for the board tonight, sir?
Just that I did place at your seat, I know we're on the 2022 budget. I did put an update on the 2021. We will continue to receive revenue with some of our areas, but you do see on there that we surpassed the proposed budget for revenue. I just wanted to make note of that. And we still have more funds that will be coming in. Police grant funds come in over the next month and a half that go back to this year. We still have the fire grant that is out there that we have not received, so there will be more. And I did place, each one of you got a late proposal. Mr. Gary got 3 bids for power washing or cleaning the front of City Hall where there is some discoloration on the front. We would ask that we propose a motion tonight to accept this. We did have a bid of $2,000, a bid of $850, and then a bid of $650, which we would like to get the front of City Hall cleaned.
Does anybody have any questions about that? Sure, Alderman Bostic. I didn't know we can do this tonight either, but I'm glad it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah. I know you got 3 bids on that. I didn't look at all the specs on it and everything, but were all of them doing the exact same thing, or were the other ones doing some kind of sealant or a longer warranty on it? And what's the warranty on the cheapest one? Things of that nature. I was just curious. If $650 is a lot less than $2,000. Are they only guaranteeing it for red light, red light, we're gone, or is it gonna be for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? I mean,
Yes, I do believe it's all the same. It's considered a soft wash because they can't really power wash that stucco. As far as the details, Mr. Gary met with them out in front of City Hall. He could speak to that better.
And said it was going to have to go up on the price, but then we kind of held off on it, and then we got 2 more, and it's all a soft wash where they spray a chemical on it, and every one of them are the exact same thing.
wow. And any kind of warranty on that at all?
Well,
I mean, we're gonna have
just-
black lines
well,
coming down in there in a
no,
week?
they're going to clean all that off, but I mean, eventually, over the years, it's going to do it again, but,
Right.
I mean, there's no guarantee how long it'll stay after they get it clean.
But I said they're all gonna do the exact same procedure.
Yeah,
One of them
they're all-
is
it's
just
all the
3
exact
times
same
as much
thing.
as the other one.
Right.
Okay.
And I appreciate Mr. Klein, he gave me the guy for the last guy, and he come in cheaper than anybody.
Okay.
The same guy that the county uses them too.
All right, good deal. That's it, man.
Anybody else have any questions? I hate this coming up right here. We didn't have it on the agenda because I've asked y'all not to do stuff like this, but do y'all want to vote on it tonight, or y'all want to wait and make a motion at the next meeting? Alderman Dupree.
We're here, and it's a simple vote. I think it would be okay.
All right. Are y'all comfortable with that? Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I make the motion for the power washing of the building for $650.
Is that what it was, $650?
Yes,
sir.
What company is that, sir?
It's yes, C&P Enterprises.
TNT?
C&P.
Sir?
C&P.
C&P. All right, sir. Thank you, sir. We have a motion by Alderman Dupree. Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Alderman Klein. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
All right.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. Anything else, Mr. Robinson?
No, sir.
Chief Rao, good evening. Do you have anything, sir?
Good evening, Mayor. I don't have anything tonight.
At our staff meeting, Chief Rao pointed out that they had did 100 less calls than they've been doing in the last couple of weeks. So thank you very much. It's really brought them down. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Chief Rao? Mr. Gary? Oh, who? Alderman Klein, I'm sorry.
I know we're just starting a new budget, so I'm hoping the code enforcement guys hired is top of the list as far as, getting them on board.
Yes, sir, in this budget, that was going to be held off until January to make those hires.
Oh,
So
so.
what
it'll
I'll be
the first
coming
of the year?
before y'all, probably sometime in November, will be purchasing vehicles so that we have their cars here, so that we can get people hired,
Okay.
hopefully in January, and they'll be ready to go.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the reminder about the extra officers. Anybody else have any questions or comments for Chief Ryle? Mr. Gary, you have anything? Any member of the board have anything for Mr. Gary? Alderman Geis.
On Wayne Cove, I know you came into Holly Grove and patched some potholes. Wayne Cove is the first cove to your right when you come off DeSoto that's almost completely destroyed. You had mentioned back several months ago that once they were finished with the streets that you were gonna go over there. Is that still in the works? The ice storm completely destroyed that one.
We have finished phase 1, 2, and 3, and in speaking with Mr. Robinson, I don't know if we're gonna have much money left, because I was under the impression that we're working off of, I think, $5.6 million budget for construction initially. Come to find out, it's only 5.2. So the savings that I was thinking for all these additional projects, I've been talking to you guys about, making a list. Doesn't look like there's gonna be a whole lot of money remaining, so.
Is that something that could be at least filled in with something besides gravel? Thank you.
May I just add one thing, too, is that once we start our street rehab project, or our pavement management program, we would like to, we're gonna look at incorporating maybe some type of term bid contract that we could have people come in to do this kind of work, where your public works folks make a list of all this stuff and keep up with it. And once we get to a certain point, he can say, okay, here's your list of streets we need to work on, and go do that work. We already have it bid out, unit prices and all that kind of stuff. So you don't just piecemeal it together, as you go. It's a structured way of doing it, and more efficient way, so.
Yes, sir. Sounds good.
That answer you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments for Mr. Gary? Chief Limble, you have anything for the board, sir?
No, sir, I don't.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Chief Limble? Mr. Coleman, do you have anything for the board, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. I don't have anything tonight, sir.
Anyone have any questions, comments? Or how's the muskrat hunt going?
They're coming out tomorrow to take care of that.
Are they?
Yes, sir.
Mayor.
Alderman Dupree.
Hey, I spoke with you about having that Halloween get together over at the park on Choctaw. Have you been over there lately? Could you go by and just take a look at that? You'll see what I mean.
Okay, yeah. I went out there the other day. I actually went out there to inspect the sidewalks.
Okay.
To get a quote on that paving out there,
Right.
so.
All right, thank you.
Anything else, sir? Anything else, Alderman?
Oh, no, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Malavasi, did you have anything else for the board, sir?
No, sir, not this time, Mayor.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Malavasi?
I have one.
Mr. Alderman Bostic.
I know we all got an email from a citizen, and I think you got involved in that.
Yes, sir, which one?
Yeah, the ditches, the eroding of the fence and whatever it was. I know they were trying to get it hold of you, and you said, I never saw a follow-up on that. I was just curious how we stood on that.
Well, is that Durango, or which one is that?
Not Durango.
No, it's not
Mine,
Durango. Yours is Durango.
well, I've got two.
Okay.
Durango, and then the one that we've been dealing with for a while.
You remember the address, Mr. Bosco?
I want to say Pinwheel. Is that right? I'd have to look at it.
Was that one with trees? I think the one was trees on
And
the
the
fence.
other one was a ditch.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the one you're talking about, I made a phone call to, and I haven't gotten a response back. I left a message, I think, because I don't remember talking to them, but
I'll look at my email
we can
tomorrow.
follow up with it for sure.
Okay.
Just let me know.
Are you talking about, Alderman guys, a tree that was falling on somebody's fence?
Well, we had 3 of them come up all at one time. 2 of them were ditches that, and I think they're all connected somewhere down through there, Durango, and then another one, and their backyards are washing away. And then, there was one with a fence that some trees on the city side were tearing up the fence. So I don't think that was him.
No, that was good.
Is that the one you had cut down, sir? They cut down one today.
Pinwheel, that was with the fence, yeah.
What street was that, sir? Pinwheel, okay. Was that one of them that y'all were?
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I got an email on.
I know, they just finished it today. Anything else, Mr. Malavasi?
No, sir.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Mr. Campbell, do you have anything for the board, sir?
Mr. Mayor, I just don't want to miss my marching instructions with respect to the fireworks ordinance. Am I supposed to try to draft an amendment to that ordinance consistent with, I guess, what Alderman Young has proposed with some of the clarifying remarks made by others tonight and bring that back at the next meeting? Or do y'all want to get Mr. Wilson's written comments back at the next meeting and look at those before I start drafting anything?
I think we kind of left Mr. Wilson with the impression that we would get his comments and then look and see how y'all felt about those, and then have another meeting to lay it all out there. Is that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Is that agreeable to the board? Mr. Campbell, is it all right with you, sir?
Yes, sir. I just didn't want to be delinquent on something.
Yes, sir. Is there any other business before this board? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mayor,
Alderman Guys,
I make a motion to adjourn.
we have a motion to adjourn
Mayor, I second that.
by Alderman Guys, a second by Alderman Dupree, and it's not midnight. This ought to be noted. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Mr. Robinson, would you be kind enough to call the roll, please, sir?
Alderman Klein,
Aye.
Alderman Geis,
Aye.
Alderman Foster,
Aye.
Alderman Johnson,
Aye.
Alderman Dupree,
Aye, we can go eat.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for coming and participating in your city government. We are now adjourned.